yo, it's your boy Agent Albatross here again from the Cypher Unlimited, here with his usual partners. We got Anthony or Spig, we got Dean or Alpha Dean, and today we have Ravendesk Games. And Dean, why don't you tell us a little about them?
Well, Ravendesk Games. What can I say but all sorts of wonderful things? We've got Alex Lapira and Pete Salver and Charlotte Eargang here to tell us a little bit about Vert, but I'm not going to go into great detail other than say that Vert is a RPG based on a book by visionary author Jeff Noon. And guys, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourselves and what pushed you forward to bring you to this place today?
You bet. You bet. This is Alex here. Thanks for the intro and thanks for the invite. Vert is based, like you said, on a science fiction novel from the early 90s, actually, called Vert, V-U-R-T, by Jeff Noon. And it won like the Arthur C. Clarke Award. It was on a whole bunch of everybody's kind of favorite lists back then. He ended up writing 2 more books in that series and then a couple short stories that kind of delved into the same Vert universe. But it's basically it's not necessarily a standard science fiction because it's not the, Blade Runner, neon and chrome kind of thing. This is cyberpunk, and by punk I mean like Manchester, England. So it is
quite unusual.
Yes, very unusual. It stood out from the other cyberpunk books that again all kind of seem to come out at that time as well. Neuromancer, all the great books of the late 80s up to mid 90s. And so I was a huge fan. In fact, back in college, way back in the day, because I'm that old, I was a theater major. See, Pete, I'm going for it. Pete was also a theater major there. We were in San Francisco State, and I approached Jeff Noon, who's he lives in England. He's a British author, and I wrote him asking if I could do a theater version. I wanted to put on a stage version of it, and it had a whole bunch of special effects and projections, and it was definitely 2002, edgy as hell, and we were all dressed up and had a DJ in the back. It was a lot of fun. But then, fast forward to...
I was so ready to be T-Foss.
Yes, absolutely. It was wonderful. And so fast forward about 15 years later, and I'd already approached, almost 15. I approached Jeff Noon again, asking at this time to do the tabletop role-playing game because as my tattoos, if you can see in this horrible light, I got my D20, I've got my strength, the dex, I'm super nerd as far as tabletop, and I've always loved, his book as well as tabletop. And, years later, I was like, I'm going to take a stab at getting, my dream, that whole universe into tabletop role-playing game form. And it was a crazy undertaking. And that was, at first I had approached Lee Pruitt, who's also, part of the company as well. And my cousin as well in real life, my second cousin. So we grew up playing games together as well. So he's the one who actually first got me into RPGs in the first place, way back in the day, in the 80s. Lee and I wrote a majority of the material for the game, had to go through, and then Pete also did additional writing as well, and Pete was also part of the the research and development part where we were breaking down everything that was in all of his novels, making sure we extrapolated every single detail, every item, everything.
I was busy inserting Red Dwarf jokes randomly into things.
Yeah, it was terrific. Yeah, it definitely went with the vibe of the book, which is again pretty irreverent to say the least. But it encompassed everything from all of his novels. He wrote several short stories specifically for the book that are in for the tabletop role-playing game core book, and they're in there as well. And yeah, he's a huge fan, and he still kind of can't believe that, these crazy Yanks from across the pond decided to, one, keep bugging him for almost 20 years at this point, and being like, hey, I want to do a theater piece. Hey, I want to, do a game. Hey, anyway. Yeah, that's the short story long of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
First off, I want to say welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you, Pete, and Alex and Shar. You're a golden one. We love you. You're part of the family. I know. First off, Vert is fantastic. When I met you guys in Gen Con, I told you that I absolutely love the system. But I know that Ravendesk games. You also produce another role playing game as.
Mm-hmm.
And how long has Ravendesk been in existence? Like, how long have you guys?
There it is. Yeah, cross-platform. Oh, hit the savage world.
Nice.
Okay, you guys can take it. You guys can take it.
Well,
Love it.
shameless
yes,
self-promotion.
We've been around. I think at this will be the 4th year, actually, technically, because again, we had the first Kickstarter was for Vert. 2015, and then the second Kickstarter was what Pete had just showed, was for Harold, which is Harold, Lovecraft, and Tesla, and that's a 1920s meets Cthulhu meets spec fiction. It's more of a pulp Indiana Jones vibe than like gibbering madness and going Delta Green at the end of the session.
But you get to play different luminaries of the 20s, so you can play as Jack Dempsey punching out a 60-foot anaconda twice in 2 different sessions at Gen Con, where the actual character just said, nope, I'm punching an anaconda to death.
And someone always chooses Eleanor Roosevelt, and that's awesome. So we've, again, Ravendesk has got, those are 2 very different game lines, of course. That second line was actually, it came from a comic book series by John Riley, a lot of the art by Tom Rogers, who also did all the art for our book for Harold. So we got it's a comic book line from Action Lab Comics, and it's continuing. The next issue is actually coming out next month. There was a bit of a hiatus, but now it's back in. So we took some of that. It was a much smaller IP, of course, or thing to pull from. There was only 8 issues at that time, and then we expanded way out. So we have other ideas as well for game lines and everything, but it seems to be kind of our, I guess right now at least, our kind of MO is MMO. Is to get really, really like amazing, publications, whether it's comic books or novels, or and then find a way to not only do it justice, but to expand on it, and then of course keep the original creators involved. And so, up until this point, that's what we've done for those 2 lines. But yeah, we're now in our 4th year, and now. At this point, we have someone like, Shar. We're finally able to, we have our cool street cred enough to pull in someone like Shar Irgang, who, I met 3 years ago, I think now at Gen Con, running the first.
It was like the end of your Kickstarter, because you had done the Kickstarter and you were trying to, you had just finished the PDF version, but you hadn't published it yet.
Yep, and little did we know that it was going to take, we were going to extend that development period into I wouldn't say rewriting, but extending it A whole bunch. So we took an extra almost year of development, and the backers were very wonderful and patient about it. But what we thought was going to be about 300 pages ended up being, 420, 426
worth it.
pages. Yes, 300 plus fully commissioned pieces of art from. I mean, we did it. It was like our dream, and I'm also speaking for Lee and for Pete as well, and basically everybody we could get to geek out with us on this. Now again we're expanding. It's slow. We're expanding slowly, but we're continuing with those two lines for sure before we start taking on anything else, because we've got it written. That's for sure. It's just a question of getting into the publication. So
It's absolutely worth it. It's a gorgeous.
Hey, yeah, I was about to say, before you ask your question now, I just had to the book is beautiful. It is expansive. It's extensive. It's inspiring. I've run a few vert games. I've played in a few vert games, and from a guy who's been doing this for 40 years, it's probably one of the best things I've touched on in the last, probably the last decade.
I'm all collapsed now.
I appreciate it.
Get the vapors.
Thank you. Yeah,
some of those.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, some of those feathers, the feather trips in the back. I wrote most of the feather trips in the adventures. Some of those feather trips are my actual dreams.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. Also, again, the idea that we had a science fiction setting that had this entire other part, again, from the original books and the material about feathers and, group drugs and dreams and this and that. So really finding even the right system at the very beginning was something we considered as well. I mean, at one point we were considering, possibly going through, starting with, a different system, or maybe doing an original system, something existing.
That's what everybody needs is one more system to learn.
Right, exactly. I've got an idea. How about we all show up with a bucket full of, D6s, and then we get crunchy. No, we knew that Cypher system, again, was, especially for Vert, because it had so many of these in the books and everything, had so many of these really interesting items, either technology or when it gets into the more dreamy parts of the book, mythological items, or there are always these powerful things that you could get, and the vert feathers themselves, the dream feathers there that everybody's addicted to in this near future, are also these powerful items. So Cypher
powerful one-use items.
So guys, before we get too quick ahead of ourselves here, I know we're about to go down that rabbit hole. Can you tell? Can you?
What do you mean, rabbit hole?
All right. So either way, can you please explain to our listeners who may not know what exactly is the Vert RPG? And how did you go about? I know you mentioned that you spoke to Jeff Noon quite a bit, but what else was involved in the process of getting that license for the role playing game?
Yes, and I've got the synopsis down to a very manageable length at this point after these years. So, it's set in the near future of Manchester. There have been quite a few genetic problems, with drugs that have caused like genetic overlap here. So we have, and this is all from the books there, we have eventually a mixing of the 5 modes of being. So people are either, pure or a mix of human or robo, which is like robotic, shadow, actually, which is, very strange and wonderful, dog, and vert alien. And alien in the sense of it comes from the dream world, which is what these feathers that everyone's addicted to, it takes you to this dream world. So that's where the vert people come from. So it's a near future. mega Manchester, absolutely, 50 miles by 50 miles, the biggest city in the world. All of this, all the things that from the novels have just happened in the very recent past. And so, so many of the people walking the streets are mixes of these different 5 combinations. So you have Dogman, you have Robo Dogs, you have Shadow Man. That could be somebody who's somebody who can have smoke actually come out of their eyes or mouth sometimes when they're either really angry and they can wrap it around. And it really hits on with those 5 combinations. We ended up with, yeah.
I was going to say the shadow is also the shadow of death. So you have characters who are half alive, half dead. You have possibilities for zombies, though they're not Romero zombies or anything like that. But then with the vert, you can have tentacles, you can have wings, you can have multifaceted eyes multiple times on your head. Yeah.
So with 31 modes of being, 31 flavors here of these genetic, Robo Man Dog, Robo Man Shad, Vert Dog, Vert Man, Vert Shadow. So all of these different things we have at the beginning of the book. It's the first, I think, like 70 pages or something crazy. It not only gets into the background, but it also gets into each of these specific modes of being. And now in the Cypher system, those are the different
types,
yeah, the type. So we have 31 types. So again, this is a near future. Everyone's hooked on these vert feathers, which are drugs that transport everybody who takes them. You ingest them, you suck on these feathers, and they lose their special color. And whoever can suck on this feather quickly, just put it in their mouth before it goes totally colorless, enters into the dream world together. So you're all of a sudden, it's similar to like an MMO. Again, this was written in the early 90s. You're in, and some of these dreams, some of these dream feathers are very video game like. You're thermofish, you're swimming into the seas of pitch, and you're punching out fish, and you're winning the day, and there's text in the sky that tells you you've won, and there's 8-bit music telling you that everything's great. And then others are nightmares, really illegal dreams, these feathers that you take, and whoever takes that, you may go into that dream, and depending how strong that feather is that everybody's addicted to in this near future, it could actually lead to you dying in the dream, and then
I would not know what that's like.
The thing about feathers in this world as well is, besides the dreams that you inhabit, they're also the feather in the dream world has kind of replaced the virtual world and the internet. So when people make phone calls, they do a feather call, and it's more a virtual reality contact instead of a call. You have a PDF, which is your personal data feather, that works just like a PDF, but it's a feather. People go to vert ball games, and they go to the stadium, or they can sit at home, but each player on a normal football, soccer for us, game is linked to a feather, and if you have your favorite player, you engage that feather, and you experience the soccer game in POV 3D, but you're actually there because it's vert, so you're dreaming, but you're playing that game. So a lot of aspects that you get in other cyberpunk settings are still there. They're just connected through the dream and through feathers rather than jacking into a wetware port behind your ear or something.
I mean, I think one of the best things for a setting like this is that as a game master, the possibilities are endless on what you could run. I mean, you could pretty much come up with anything and figure out a way to make it fit into Vert.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely awesome.
That's also the challenge. Not going to lie, that is a challenge that we have faced. We knew we would face, and what is only going to be helped as we continue to publish, especially the next the adventures, a lot more specific adventures, plot point campaigns, things like that show even more depth. But we knew that with this giant world, this universe that this amazing writer created, this is unlike. It's very familiar in so many ways. People can jump right into it. We know, but it's much less Blade Runner and much more Train Spotting. And that was also something we had to make sure that the system and the players, the player base of the particular game systems could be cool with, basically. This is not even PG-13.
And with you saying that, so with you just saying that, that's perfect, because my question for you is, why Cypher system of all systems out there, and what tweaks did you make, or what modifications to the mechanics?
We made it gritty as bad clam chowder. It is absolutely.
That sounds
We
awful.
raised the damage levels. We bumped everything up. The weapons do more damage. Yeah, sorry about that. More damage.
That is awesome.
We also made it, and this is specific to the setting as well. It's the future, yes, and there are tens of millions of people stuck together, and it has that feeling of overcrowding and horrible traffic, and all of this stuff. But not everybody's walking around strapped. This is not, as much as I love Mike Pondsmith's Cyberpunk 2020, it is one of my first loves on this world. It is not that. No one is pulling out a gun, honestly, just like in real life, which kind of went to part of what I like best about it as well. And again, it's set in England too, where firearms are not, people are just not necessarily strapped. So it would make sense that if that was the biggest city in the world, the laws would follow. So in this, of course, the cops have all the weapons, and some corporations and their private securities have all the weapons. And if you're rich, you can probably find a way to get a permit to allow you to do something. But for the general punters on the street, basically, the jerks just trying to make enough money to buy their favorite feather at the end of the week. These are things where if most of these people are walking around with cricket bats or brass knuckles or bottles. And honestly, to keep it even more realistic, or to not necessarily realistic, but why the Cypher system we thought needed to get a little grittier than maybe like what works perfectly for Numenera or some of the others where it's a little more, bigger fantasy and whatnot. Like this is, if you get hit with brass knuckles in real life, you are going down. You're not getting up and dodging and weaving or doing this, and it's not happening. So these fights, need to be quick, dirty, and if someone pulls a gun, people are running. And as Shar can tell you, playing in these games, every time that a gun is fired in New Manchester here, or in the future Manchester here, it is 60 seconds, sometimes 90 seconds if you're lucky, before you hear those sirens.
Unless you're in Bottletown, then you're all right.
Yeah, you have to be in a real tight area of town where the cops just do no-goes. But yeah, you will get picked up. It's incredibly illegal. So.
But the best thing to do is shoot the gun and then blame it on the other guy and run.
Now we're getting into the campaigns here. Don't give it away. No spoilers.
In practical terms of Cypher as well, as we doubled the damage.
Yeah.
So they're still light, medium, heavy, but we just doubled what the output is. But we didn't change your hit points, if you will. I know it's not Cypher system. And the other thing we love about Cypher system, that it's when you were mentioning how it's anything you want, it's very similar to the Strange in the setup, in that every dream is its own world and can have its own rules, but you don't have to re-roll your character for each generation to change everything about the Strange.
Recursions. Yeah.
Right, but it recurs. But it also means that all of that material, all that Strange material, is probably available for Vert if you wanted to, and just here's a feather that's this.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, was Cypher your first choice?
It was one of the first two. To be quite frank, it was that and Savage Worlds. And Savage Worlds. which I love, which is again is a nice a wide open system. There's a lot of people that know how to play it and they like it, and it could lend itself well to Vert perhaps. But Cypher system, basically because of the player base, being used to more adult, it's less PG. Not that Savage Worlds is all. I mean, they have some crazy stuff. I've played some weird war games that have blown my mind. But in general, they tend to go more for the pulp side than real grit kind of thing. So players were used to it, and also the idea, as we mentioned, of these one-shot items. It just really lent itself well to it, and it honestly, like I play Savage Worlds game every week. I play Cypher every 2 weeks. I play all the different systems. And of course, as you guys
Savage Worlds game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there it is.
One of each.
Yeah, but the Cypher community, obviously I'm preaching the choir here. The Cypher community is very open to something like this. Like, people will take an extra chance. I mean, we're already used to the idea of 1 billion years into the future, into the 9th world, all day. The strange, it's kind of like X-Files meets certain other things, and kind of a fun, people are used to being like, I wonder what this week's going to bring. So community's set up for it, and they're also just a little more adult. We didn't have to hold back on anything.
The first thing, I'm 100% honest, when I picked up the Vert book, before I even read it, the first thing I noticed, your equipment and your equipment and your vehicle section, hands down, the best I've seen in over 10 years in anything. Honestly, I didn't even read the book. Matter of fact, I just looked at it and I said, oh, pardon my French, this is awesome. And not even if you don't play Vert, this is what the Cypher system needed. We all run crazy one-shots. That's what we do. The Cypher Unlimited, we're the crazy one-shot guys. I've used the Vert book on multiple settings, and your equipment section is absolutely hands down. It's the best thing in Cypher when it comes to equipment and vehicle. So with that said, was that your mindset going in? Like,
yes, definitely. Although once we did our first, run at like, okay, here's how many things, and Pete had a lot to do with that, and Lee as well. We just kept expanding. We're like, oh shit, well, we want to see this. We want to see, we need to figure out how to get a VTOL in here. That they have the whole thing in Manchester and England with the mods and the rockers. So you need these. These cool. There it is. So and also again, without it's not a to and anybody's I'm not coming down on it, but we didn't find anything. We didn't find a lot yet at that point, at least. Of vehicles.
We wanted to make sure that because anybody can have a cyber system where you can just have whatever you want, but this is specifically England, and because there aren't that many firearms other than the Webley, good old granddad fought back the Huns with that one. But there's a lot of things. There's bandy sticks and hurling sticks and Millwall bricks that most of the American public has no idea, has never heard of. We didn't make up the Millwall brick. That's a real thing.
Yep.
And rolling up a magazine and getting it wet somehow in the middle of nowhere and hitting somebody with that.
I told my friend it was almost like you guys took one of the GURPS equipment books and just jammed it in the setting book.
I'll take that.
I was like, man, this is like a separate book in the middle of the setting book. Yeah, well, awesome.
As you can tell, we definitely came from the Cyberpunk 2020 world.
Yeah.
Of like, we want to see equipment. We want to see,
And see, it's kind of funny because, even in real life, I just have this thing about blunt force trauma. So all the clubs and bats and things, it was just like, my character invert, his name is Gatsby Bandy Whip. And Gatsby loves to bandy whip people all the time.
Yeah, those items definitely help add to the flavor.
What mode is your character?
Huh?
What mode is your character?
Oh, he's a dog boy.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your entire sentence?
Oh yeah, the magic.
Oh
sentence.
God.
Yeah.
I don't even. I would have to pull it up. I would, because I don't get to play as often as I like. But
yeah, that actually goes specifically to changes you mentioned, changes we've made in addition to really bumping up the grit and the damage and having lasting damage happen pretty damn often, and permanent damage happening lasting damage every time you drop a pool is pretty clear. You may end up with or you drop your pools, you're going to end up with lasting damage. You do that, you push that envelope, you're going to end up with permanent damage, and you're limping or unable to see out of one eye or something.
Exactly.
Big happen hard. But also again, with going to the magic sentence thing, or we call it the magic sentence, the Cypher. I am a noun. I am a
adjective
noun who verbs.
Yes.
Exactly. So we had to again, so mode, type, descriptor, and focus. So we added more descriptors and we added more foci, quite a bit, and some of them, and we had to make sure also and test them out, extensively. We had to make sure that they weren't. They aren't just like reskins of something from Strange or Numenera or something like that. Like, not only do they have to, vibe with what's already in the books and in the world and the universe anyway, but then now, because we have, instead of 4 types, or not types, of our
types.
Yes, we have 30. Now I'm mixing up the descriptors. There are 31
combinations. Yeah.
Yes, 31 instead of what? 4 or no? We still have the 4 types. Yeah, the descriptors. Sorry, I think I may have misspoken before. Sorry.
Yeah.
Types, we still have 4.
It takes the place of race in like fantasy settings. But.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but instead of it just being like elf, night vision or something like that, we really had to make sure that we added so many combinations, and so we wanted it to be also not only be fun for those who are going to pour through it and be like, oh, that's kind of me, or oh, that's definitely me, and really, really getting deep, but also for those that are like, listen, I really want to mix this the hell up. I'm going to go for, just go with my gut. I'm going to choose one of these 4. We have our warrior, we have our speaker, we have our
Adept.
Our math magician.
Adept and explorer.
Is our we changed it, and that has to do, of course. And that's not even just a reskin either. We had to adjust. But then we have the 31 descriptors, and then we have how many foci? I don't even know. And I wrote. But by the time you're done, you can take I'm going to choose here, here, and here. And you put that thing together and you will find a PC that you're like, has these incredibly strange and, surprisingly complementary, either skills or abilities. And, Shar can definitely tell you, how many times, especially if you're playing someone who has like shadow genetics, they have the shadow in them.
Shadow's my favorite.
Some of it is, yes, exactly. Some of it has to do with like, being able to pick up on people's thoughts. But if you want to kind of progress with, somebody with the shadow abilities in a way that isn't just like getting into someone's head, it's more about, staying real stealthy. Well, that same descriptor, it'll as you're going up in the tiers, it should again allow for these already interesting combinations to keep getting more and more unique as you get out. And that, again, it all comes from the fact that in the book, as you're reading, in the original books, in the series that Jeff Noon wrote, you have these wonderful characters, and all of a sudden you're realizing that one of them, who's kind of sleepy all the time, all of a sudden gets really mad and smoke is pouring out and she's strangling someone with the smoke. And then all of a sudden, someone is showing up and they're punching, someone else, and it turns out they're part robo, it looks like, but not in a cyberpunk way. So, and then of course you meet the dog men who are coming in, and they're the best.
Actually, Alex, that leads that leads into a good question, or our next question for you, where you kind of touched on it just now and a little earlier when you were describing how bloodied up and like messed up a person can get in this like series or setting. And so Jeff Noon, he tackles a lot of adult themes in his books. And and how do you guys manage to convey that in a role playing game? And for in your games, how often do these themes come up? And like, how often do you get tackled within your games? And again, how does that end up playing out?
I just want to say a quick word about, we wrote feathers, and in the original novels, one of the types of feathers is the pink feathers, which are porno. So we do address it in the book, because you can't have it in the original source material and not at least address it. But we also say in the book, we understand that most people are not really comfortable sitting around a table role-playing a pornography situation.
Yes.
Here are some clever names. Here are some ways you might use a feather like this or a situation like this in another adventure, but we're not going to draw any of them out. You do you. We're fine.
True.
Those exist. Have fun.
That was a real, he's right, that was a really difficult decision, as to really like how much we could just omit it all. We could, and it's not just the pink feathers. Again, these feathers, these dream feathers, in many ways take the place of what we would understand as our like internet or any type of communication. So that is part of the landscape out there. But even in the books, that's just one of the adult themes. And the books again are, it gets into some, they're definitely adult books.
In pollen, there's pretty close to a suicide feather in pollen.
Yeah,
but it's where people pass on to a certain place. And we had talked about including a feather called Black Kevorkian that's basically that, but we eventually didn't do it because those things might exist in that world, but it's not necessarily the most fun thing to role play. But maybe it's a clue left in an investigation where someone's trying to make you think that they committed suicide when they were actually murdered. So you need to address that those things can exist in the world, but you don't spend a lot of time delineating them for role play because people don't necessarily want to do that.
And and even within the game universe, in-game universe, a lot of these subjects are part of not just the zeitgeist, but like what people are actually talking about, like people that are say part robo dog man, okay, someone who is genetically robo dog and man. Don't have to get into it, and they don't either, but somewhere back in the horrible old days, genes were crossed. And even in the book, it'll bring up subjects like that where you're reading and you're just like, oh no, oh what? Oh really? Okay. And
wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
When your guys ran like play tests at cons and stuff, did you have an X card? I was wondering if that's something
I have in many games an actual X card itself, but I definitely especially when I'm running it, I know, and I make sure everybody knows at the very beginning, hey, here's the game, and again, hopefully it comes across. Shark can tell me, or Pete could tell me if it's not, but definitely it's making sure like, hey, we're going to go for train spotting. I got and this may be hypocritical or very, American of me, but I have little problem with the drugs aspect of it, which is huge in this near future, and everybody's addicted to something, and that's the thing. I have no, and I tell people, you know, the issues are going to be on that. The issues are going to be on, you know, things that, you know, but it's less about either hacking people, you know, hacking or cyberpunk, which again is fun and has its place of like, you know, taking out a minigun and mowing down 50 cyber zombies. This is definitely more, you know, again, we're trying to, you know, trying to hit a couple of these issues, you know, that are just fun. You know, honestly, train spotting is fun. And if you don't dig that, you may not dig, and that's okay. But like, I love and I wanted the idea of, you know, because that's what the book made me feel. It's like jump in and you're running and you're going and you're surviving and you know what? You're probably covered in filth, but damn it, you'll change later because you don't have time. And all of a sudden you've lost somebody in your gang and damn it, you can't go back because the cops are there. You can spend the rest of the time getting back, and it's nothing but frantic, you know, high tension stuff. And there's room to explore, especially, and then you mix that with the dream world, and all of a sudden they put in the vert feather, and it may be, you know, you may be just chilling on clouds, you know, up
Turn the
there.
corner and there's a dead baby crawling across the ceiling.
There it is. We go full train
Yeah, but
spotting.
at least it's not the shadow cops.
Yeah.
One of the best things I ever did was playing when the guys gave me the vert feather that took us to slow motion land. Everything was in slow motion. It was like totally awesome.
Okay, now that's a perfect example of something that, again, you know, there's things that it's kind of hinted at, but that's not something that came from an adventure or a specific thing. That's just something that someone picked up fully right on, and that's the full spirit of the game for sure. And knowing, you know, and the hesitancy of being like, oh shit, I shouldn't have taken that. Oh man, here it comes. Well, write it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Way to win.
It was just funny because we talked about it, and I don't know if you guys saw the Judge Dredd movie. You know,
the most recent.
Yeah, with
oh, not Mr. I Am the Law.
No, with Carl Urban. One with Carl Urban.
Yes.
So that was the whole thing. We were like, what if we had a whole adventure that took place in like some kind of weird virtual slow motion land? You know, we talked back and forth, and then the next thing you know, the next game we're playing, you took iridescent green feathers and slow motion land. Here it comes. You know, it was like. You know, and it was just crazy because, you know, like prolonged fights, you actually had to roll effort to hit people. You know, you know, he tweaked it. You know, a little effort.
Yeah, physics. Yeah, because of physics.
Yeah, physics was gone.
Yeah.
You know? So it was like completely. Yeah. It was just completely bonkers. Yeah. You know, with the same principle, it was still dirty, gritty, hardcore. You know, you got hit in slow motion, so it was like extra effect.
Yeah,
you know,
that sounds like a fun scene to
movie.
listen to and like visualize how all
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. One of the coolest portions was like he like, oh, right, and your punch lands, you know, and you see the brass knuckles crumple free, you know, the bones in his jaw, and then you see a spray of spit fly and blood. You know, it was just so great. It was just a lot of fun. So it was one of those.
The whole setting also kind of reminds me of The Young Ones. You guys remember that TV show at all?
Yes.
All the weird British shit, and it was always breaking the fourth wall, and the walls of the set came down, and Motorhead was playing behind them and stuff. And like, that's Burt World right there.
Yeah, true.
You got stars on your forehead. You're just Robo.
And you know, speaking of all of that good stuff, guys, because like I'm telling you, we're really enjoying this, but you know, 'cause you probably could talk all night. With boomers. And now, Dog Save the King, your Twitch streams, you know, do you guys feel like it would, you know, how did you feel like it would transfer, you know, to actual play? And did you feel the need that you had to explain the setting to, you know, listeners who weren't involved or anything?
Shar, you would know as well as any of us. Do you want to address that?
Well, I think Alex did a really good job of explaining things kind of as we went, especially at the beginning, where when we would, you'd enter a new situation and he'd explain what's going on, and if there was something like cultural about the world that was going on. He'd explain that part too. So it wouldn't just be like, you know, you go into the bar and there's a bunch of dogmen there. It'd be like, you go into the bar, there's a bunch of dogmen there, and they look at you and, you know, you realize that if you go in and you're I forget which mode they hate, but you go in and you're a shadow man, you're gonna be in trouble. So like he'd warn you, he wouldn't just like like surprise you with it, because like in world you would have known.
On top of that question, just before we go any further, just made me think about it. So do you think Vert, you know, especially for actual plays, would you say lending yourself to like some supposition or perhaps foreshadowing is the best way to get the world across in order to make it, you know, feel whole and understandable to those who aren't initiated?
Yeah, I again, because it is such a specific setting, and one that takes place in a city that most of us, again, have never been to. And that even people in London, you say this is set in Manchester, and they all go, "Oi, what?" Pretty much. I mean, it's like so. Yes, there's a specificity to the setting that, again, if someone, I guess, it could be a hindrance for some people if they think, okay, I have to get this all right. I have to make sure I hit all of the, but you really don't at all. Again,
unless you have a Manc in your group.
Yes, true. If you have a Mancunian, if you have a local from Manchester, you have to get it right because they'll call you on it.
The first physical book we sold at Gen Con, there was a booth 2 doors down from us that saw Vert, and they knew the book because they were from Manchester, and they came over and like they bought our first book, and they were from Manchester, and they made us sign it saying, "We wrote this book, but we have never actually been to Manchester."
I ended up going to Manchester shortly after just to make sure, and so did Lee. But yeah,
as someone that read the book after I purchased the RPG, I found
that's interesting.
I found it very helpful to watch Boomers, because I read the book, you know, while watching Boomers. So it was sort of, Alex, you did a really great job of, you know, stopping in the narrative to explain certain things that I necessarily wouldn't have known if I hadn't read the book, if I just had your RPG. So it was actually a perfect tool when I was watching the actual play. It gave me a better sense of the set. You know, because when I first picked up Vert, I thought it was Cyberpunk, you know, 2020, something similar. And as you're reading, I'm understanding it, but to actually watch your guys play, it explained it better. And then I went and read the actual book, and I was like, oh, now I get what he's talking about.
Yeah. Like I think there's only so much you can convey with a setting, because the novels have like what the, you know, like what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And so when you have the setting and you don't have like what you're actually doing, it's a little bit harder, even though that setting is very evocative, and you know, they have all those amazing quotes, and they have the little stories, and they've got the adventures in the back. I think seeing people play it gives you that extra little something that you need to kind of really feel like you know the world.
The good thing about the setting.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, the good thing about the setting, too, is because it's so dense and so urban and so futuristic in the advertising everywhere, with the blurb flies everywhere and all that, the setting kind of introduces itself pretty easily. Because things come up to you and somebody, you know, they're trying to sell you drugs, or here's a Vert you want where they sell feathers, or here's a blurb fly coming into your ear to tell you buy Sneeze-a-Freezer because the pollen count's up, you know. Any of that, the weird stuff from there, it's all right there. So the GM has a lot of tools to introduce things to it that are just, it's not Basil exposition rattling off stuff, you know.
And also, I was going to say that you did a great job when when you ran Boomers, that you actually took the time to explain, so you could see the love that you actually have for the material. So you actually took the time mid-game to explain stuff that someone wouldn't necessarily know. And you sort of explained the nuances, stuff that is broadly touched on in the book, but you explained it better in the actual play, which made it a lot more helpful.
All right. And which is good that, again, the next publications that, they're written now, we're getting into planning the Kickstarter and, the next publication. But these are adventures, plot point adventures, campaigns, one-shots that are even more going to give you these nice little pieces of the world, give you everything you need, and be like, again, you can tie them together. There's the plot point, giant plot point campaign and adventures. But I think it's like you're saying, through the adventures where you can really see that it's not inaccessible to anybody who hasn't been to Manchester, or even somebody who isn't into like cyberpunk. And even Pete mentioned, I mean, everybody knows what it's like to be over advertised, in your face, and pop-ups and or robocalls. That's what this world is. So like some people, as some GMs will sit down and be running a game where half the fun is going dodging between like these madmen, like advertising companies, and it gets really like much less about the physical violence and more about all these cool things, and people get really into it and the company style stuff. But again, and that's for some people, but then again, it's also accessible for people that just want to put on some brass knuckles and just start dancing. It's backwards, unfortunately.
Is it backwards now? Oh,
what
even
do you guys?
better.
What do you guys? You got the Boomer, half the Boomer crew here. What do you guys think the biggest difference was doing the actual Twitch stream, actual play Twitch stream, opposed to sitting at a table, a regular game?
Definitely, and we're working this out as well, but I use a whole bunch of show-ems in table games and sound effects and soundtracks and everything. And so, I'm used to playing also on Roll20, and I have that tricked out so that I can do that. So
yeah, he actually made a soundtrack in the original Kickstarter with like ambient noises and songs and stuff for the Vert.
Yep.
World.
That's awesome.
That was an
Yeah,
awesome
yeah, and I'll at this point, and I'd be happy to post the link there now. Both of those, they're an hour each. One of them is set in the Vert world. One is set in the urban, Manchester, basically.
Oh, that'd be awesome if we could.
Yeah, we can definitely add that to the
absolutely.
video.
On SoundCloud. Absolutely.
Sean knows I'm a sucker for sound and music in my Roll20 game.
Yes.
Me
and
too.
it definitely adds
Me
a lot
too.
to the game and like the immersion and all that. As someone who's on more on the lazy side, I don't really do that. But seeing when Anthony does it, it's just like it just puts your game at a whole nother level.
Yeah. Well, and plus, Manchester music scene was huge for years. You had so much to draw on that's specifically from Manchester, and that Jeff Noon used to play in bands with that.
Alex.
Say what?
We still need a real Boomer song.
Yeah, I know. I'll get Adam all over that. He'll
just ferry across the Mersey.
Yes, exactly. Or roll the old chariot along, an old sea shanty for river rats in Manchester. No, it's
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say it's definitely something that is more theater of the mind at this point than I often play because of just the format that it's live stream. But we're changing that and incorporating more and more. So eventually, I think we're going to morph into the fact where, the old days where it was like Roll20, where I've got not a sound effect for everything. I don't pull soundboard for everything, but little stuff. And again, because I have the 300 plus commissioned Vert pieces, not only on my laptop, but I know exactly where it is and where to pull from when, based on someone's comment, I can pull in number 286 that shows, the the robo dog, fighting with somebody.
Now that's dedication.
Yeah, or obsession. Or obsession. I would say at
But,
this point, I got to show my tattoos. Yeah, I got
Oh
my
wow,
tattoo.
that's
Reality
awesome.
equals vert plus or minus H. I've got my vert robo dog. I've got the crest. I've got some more stuff here.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
But
awesome.
guys, and now that we touched on your Twitch
Manchester
stream
beat.
games, you guys have a lot of very interesting characters in those games. How do you come up with them? Like, what's your process for creating them? And what has been one of your most memorable moments for you during your games?
whoa. Hmm. Wow.
Oh man.
As far as the games, sometimes I'll be play testing stuff. Some stuff, that either didn't make it into the original core book, or because of size, we just couldn't fit. 426 was kind of our maximum. We decided to cut it off before it got into volume 8. But yeah, a lot of it was trying to figure out. I guess answer it. The games will come. I'll have a certain, I'll know certain key points that are going down. I'll know, obviously, I know that if they're going into a particular neighborhood, I can go to the game, the spot in the book that, because there's every neighborhood is listed in the core book. And it'll have even the districts, they'll have a little thing. And if I need to, if they're like, hey, we're going to go to North Gore now because we're going to get in the train, and maybe I wasn't ready for that. Okay. So all of a sudden, I even have a core book to go to, and that'll have, of course, at the top, all the different stores and restaurants and everything that are in there. It'll also give a little bit. So sometimes, and almost always, actually, the PCs, especially this group, will do things that either defy belief. I've seen it. I've seen 20s rolled at points where I know the TPK is coming. I can feel it. I can hear the death march. It's like there's an organ playing in the background. It's like, oh no, and it's getting dark.
As long as we don't all die falling down a well this time.
True. Listen, that wasn't me, was it?
That was you, but it's a different system.
Pete,
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
What's your most memorable moments of the stream?
Yeah, good.
Well, I've only been on the stream a little bit. I've only joined with the Dog Save the King. I haven't been on the Boom North Court Boom.
Oh, so he hasn't killed you yet.
Not on screen.
Yeah. Okay. But I remember when we were doing the characters and I was like sending it to the other people, and my character is Robo Vert, and he looks like a double-sized blurb fly. He's basically the size of a dwarf, but he's a fly. And his name's Buzz Diptera.
A mechanical fly.
A robo mechanical fly with golden scarab wings. Yeah.
But that's awesome.
That
his
sounds
mom
really
was
cool.
his mom was a robo and took fecundity 10 when she went into an Egyptian themed vert and had relations with a scarab. But so that was funny. But getting in there and then realizing that I only had 12 sessions to live because he's a mayfly.
Yeah,
but part of his thing is
31. Yeah.
Yeah, but part of his thing is but he also controls blurbs. Mm-hmm. So he's a somewhat large blurb fly with a blurb fly named Sheila. She's the best girl. And, he's trying to figure out, because you can make a blurb fly by growing your own blurb worm. So he's trying to figure out how to splice his DNA with it, and through either the vert, through robo, or through mathemagic, because he's also a magic magician, trying to figure out how to transfer his consciousness to a new body. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to break the mayfly paradigm. So we'll see if that happens.
One of those 31 descriptors, actually, it comes with some really badass abilities, no joke. But it does come with something called mayfly, which is something where you're rolling dice on character creation to see how many sessions you live. Because those two genetics, Robo and Vert, are so antithetical, like are so in constant combat with each other, you will not last long. You will be a mayfly, and you better make every session count. And
you're also burning the candle at both ends so you don't sleep, and you don't require as much. There's a lot of things, but yeah.
I
That
mean, that's
sounds
why
kind
I
of,
love Vert, because
yeah,
it's the endless possibilities.
and
You
that
could
sounds
go.
really. That sounds like it'll make for some really intense sessions. You roll like a very low number on your how many turns or days you're gonna live.
It's like
Shield,
crazy.
though.
That
I
would
mean,
make the guy.
I have
answer
3
the
sessions left.
Wow, I can't play Wednesday.
that's what it is.
Well,
I'm like,
When you play with Alex, you roll a backup character and have it ready.
I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad.
How many cyberpunk heads got destroyed?
That's Mike Consmith's fault. I blame him.
I mean, guys, this is like the best. This is probably one of the best interviews we've done. I have to say that outright, but it's like hilarious because, like, even like when we get ready to ask a question, you've like answered our questions. So
we're
modify your quote with
Are
a
you
new
saying we
question.
talk too much? Because somebody tells me I talk too much. I take offense to that. I'm not the type of person who talks too much. Shut up. I just don't go on all day like
He's using enthrall. He's using enthrall.
See, this is why Winter hates Buzz.
But Sean, you didn't answer the question. What was your?
Oh, yeah, what's yours?
What was your moment?
Yeah.
What was my moment?
God,
Oh, I don't know, man. There's a couple of defining moments for
Oh, yeah. You guys got to meet Kukulkan and yeah.
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 They,
There was one. Just pick one.
just one.
Come on, give me one. Give me one.
at the
I'm gonna pick the Whoopi's bathroom.
What?
Because it's just the most like disgusting bathroom in Manchester. And of course, like we had just escaped from the shadow cops because we're very good citizens of Manchester. And we were trying to find a place to rest so we could take a feather because we're junkies.
yeah.
And so what do? We go to like the nastiest possible place. And
the Whoopi's burgers. The bottom of the restaurant.
Platforms out of like these, like trays and chairs. And like we just pass out in this pile of filth, and then we're in this like awesome dream world that almost killed us.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's great.
That's very train spotting moments. As long as you were
Yeah, it was a very train spotting,
suppositories in the
very
toilet.
vert.
It was.
Like-
It said the worst toilet in Manchester, and
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I said it literally.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, everybody can pull from.
I mean,
And
you
once again-
can have other systems where you like drop the ceiling on a whole gang, or like fight a dragon.
Mhm.
It won't be the same.
Uh,
But there's not a lot of games in which you hole up in the dirty.
In a dirty toilet.
It worked. It worked.
It worked.
Of course, when you guys came out of
And
the
then you have an awesome time in a completely other world, and it works out real well for you.
and just like what we experience, coming out of the dream back to the real world is not always pleasant. Sometimes
I would imagine so.
you don't want to wake up and maybe know your own filth. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just such a like weird moment.
Very,
So
very
funny.
Manchester.
So I want you to meditate on that weird moment for a couple of seconds. And I'm going to ask this question. You already answered half of my question there already.
You're
Alex,
welcome.
talking about what we have to look forward to from Ravendesk games, So how about this?
Pirates and submarines and monsters. Oh my!
Oh my.
No, my it's more of a statement, and I want just to get you guys' feelings. I look at Vert, as because normally for me when I play games and stuff like that, I'm very much about the unique and my own creation. I don't like trying to dive into established worlds. But I found with Vert, even though it's an established world, it's just such an open plethora that it doesn't make a difference.
It's an established world of infinite possibilities.
Exactly. So how do you guys feel about that? Where does that take you as a creative?
Oh, that was and is the challenge. Is getting people to, because I'm the same way. I love, I'm always the one who, gets the book and then figures, okay, well, maybe I can make this kind of class, and they say this, to really customize the hell out of it. So that's possible in the game, especially with so many, you can mix and match even randomly and end up with something that makes you feel like you created it. But it is the challenge, really. It's is getting people who see this as like a monolithic world that, oh man, I just don't have time, or like this seems like, I may have to read the books or something to get it. That was one of our biggest challenges, was making sure that this was accessible first and foremost to, honestly, to Cypher system players and tabletop players in general, and then the super fans of the book like me. And then, you can read the book after, but it had to be something that, you didn't require anything other than just picking it up, being inspired by some of the craziness. And again, that's also what,
Well, I want to see the world expand. I want to see us do Vert in space and go full Philip K. Dick, Three Stigmata of Palder Eldritch, where they're on a moon colony that's really boring, but to escape their world, they take this feather. They take the candy feather or the choosy feather,
Yeah.
We know what Pete's
not to say we love Dick, but we really like Philip K. Dick.
Yeah. The adventures that are coming up, publication, we do actually get into the rest of the world. We do get it, and we had it all written, but it couldn't fit into the giant tome that is the book. But we have everything that's happening in Madrid, Liverpool, we have Los Angeles, Mumbai, Mega Lagos, which is Lagos, Nigeria, but it's incorporated. We took all the stuff from the book and expanded it out. So here's what the world looks like in, Portland. I mean, we have specific, and there's a bunch of people with, handlebar mustaches on unicycles, that are robo men with bowler hats.
I'll play that.
But then again, there's Chroma Italia, Chroma, and that's everybody in Rome, which is now called Chroma, is probably part robo and zips around on their little scooters saying ciao, drinking petroleum.
Now, with that being said, is there a Kickstarter coming soon, or what do we got to look forward to, and about how soon? Because people might have to count their coins.
Yes, no doubt. Yes, we're in the planning stages now. We're looking at in the next, I want to say, 2 to 3 months, we'll be announcing either announcing the Kickstarter itself or announcing that it's coming very shortly thereafter. Like I said, it's written. It's a question, and a lot of it is actually already play tested as well at this point. For some of the publications or some of the parts, but that's probably it. We're looking at, I'd love to say early summer, maybe midsummer, kind of a Kickstarter, and again, plot point campaigns, adventures, one shots, and all more ciphers. More vehicles, more weapons, other equipment.
We've been talking about establishing a blog and adding some other things to it, like Dragon Magazine used to do, where you have the ecology of the beholder and they break it down in different versions. The ecology of the ghost cat, where we expand on the idea that's in there, and you could have a ghost cat as a pet that you might be able to control because you are part shadow and they are part shadow, and so you have a link with them. And all like Blurb Fly Light, but different kind of things like that, where we expand on the universe as we go. But really, we're just throwing out guideposts. You guys go wherever you want with it. It's amazing.
for that
Alex?
blog, like even also putting together these 3-page like one shots basically, or a feather that's 2 pages of well, that also is something we're going to be putting into the blog. So even free stuff just to kind of keep it out there, because damn it, we've got it. We've
I really
got
want to
it.
write more iterations of the feather that requires the players to do karaoke.
Okay.
That's an awesome idea.
I
the
would
feather
definitely
instant
love that.
adventure.
Once this
I would
once
do
this
that.
once this
Robert Hayes.
interview is over, Alex, I gotta ask you a couple of questions.
All right.
In the karaoke feather, real quick before you hit it, Anthony. The karaoke feather, if we do it, everybody has to sing through the game.
Oh yeah, it's in the core book. Dubship Odyssey. It's in the core book, and the instructions are written. They should do karaoke, and if they don't, the GM should scold them for being sticks in the mud and award them points if they roll the dice. But they really should sing the song.
Awesome.
All right. Now that we got the easy questions out of the way, these were the the softballs. We're gonna start asking the deep, in-depth, 60-minute into your soul, pull out your essence questions. It's on 9 rapid fire questions. You guys ready?
I don't know if we can do rapid fire.
My name is Pete, and I'm an alcoholic.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Question 1: player or GM?
Alex,
GM.
Pete,
Player.
Char.
Player.
So, guys, when you're
And
running
we are
your
well met.
games or in your games, pull punches or go for that TPK? And as a player, would you prefer if they pull punches
Sure.
or went for that TPK?
Start with Char.
Usually pull punches.
Pete.
Crash and burn, baby.
I'm going to agree with my players at all times. Always.
Says the guy who murdered the party the first year.
After 2 years of trying to kill him and just being thwarted by, Jack's magic nat 20 or somebody just tossing down the 20s.
Online or in-person gaming? We'll start with Pete.
Oh, in person.
Char.
I like online for frequency, and I like doing text-based on online, and I really like in person because there's more nachos.
One or the other. Come on, one or the other.
I can't pick.
Oh, here.
Shaw's running for office.
I'm
Exactly.
gonna go online. 'cause
Alex?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
In person, I'm going to say in person, but again, I love playing all the time. My regular games are online.
In person, but I'm in the middle of nowhere, so.
Announce the difficulty or keep it secret.
Alex.
The task.
You keep that to yourself. Thank you.
Pete.
I'd say it depends on the task, because some of them you want to build up the anticipation, and some of them just or not even tell them what the roll's for.
Just
Just roll. Just tell me what you got.
Char.
Announce it and laugh.
And laugh. So, salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Yes.
That is a man of my own heart.
All right, Alex, your answer?
I'm going to go for salty. Like, yeah, I got it.
Char.
I'm just too sweet to go for
There
salty.
it is. Why are you being so salty?
That's why I'll just eat chocolate covered pretzels. Boom. Already boom.
There you go. One-stop shop there.
That's kind of where I'm like. That's the ideal: is the sweet and the salt together, especially with the crunch. Oh man!
Raisinets and buttered popcorn.
I'm a salty
There you
snack guy. I want
Oh.
Funyuns or something.
Raisins and buttered popcorn.
I mean, I'm not going to turn down your Funyuns.
Look, there's something so decadent about raisins and buttered popcorn. Hot buttered popcorn, throw the raisins in there, they melt. It's freaking phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
I
That does
like
sound good.
I've never
I
tried
like that.
Raisinets, but I've had chocolate chips.
You must
M&Ms.
try the raisinets. It's the best.
I used to play D&D in Germany in the 90s when I was in the army, and they had this this company that did liter bottles of water, San Benedetto, but they did it iced tea. They did sweetened peach iced tea in a full liter. So you can get a
Oh my God.
Yep.
and a 6-pack of those. So you're going to pee every 20 minutes all day, man.
Where were you stationed at? Where were you
I was
stationed
in
in Germany?
Giebelstadt, it's a tiny little town south of Würzburg, and then I was in Hungary for a year as part of the mission in Bosnia.
I was in
I played a lot
Kaiserslautern.
of werewolf.
I was in Kaiserslautern and also in Berlin when the wall came down.
You were in K-Town, nice.
Oh yeah, I was there in the '80s though. You know,
Okay. I was there in 93, 97 is when I was in.
'89 and '90.
Gotcha.
Okay, so RP, combat, or a mix of both?
I would have to think on that.
I'm going to say RP. I love the combat, but the craziest moments usually see the RP.
Yeah, RP is a lot more fun. A lot more possibilities than just swing, miss, swing, connect, swing, miss.
Char?
I prefer the RP because I even like to RP through the combat.
Welcome to Vert.
You know,
That's definitely the good answer.
Char does.
But so what was I gonna say? Oh no, Anthony, it's actually your turn to ask a question.
Did everyone answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
PDFs or physical books?
Oh man.
Physical.
Depends on the book. When the book is as lovely and well painted as this fine piece of heavyweight bonded stuff.
Wait a second.
But Alex is like, you can buy the PDF too.
Yeah,
though.
depends on the shipping weight. Shipping weight.
Char?
I mean, what? Why don't we have both? .gif.
The only problem comes on tabletop. I actually prefer to have the PDF, but if I'm playing it online, I prefer to have the hard copy because that's one less window, a little less bandwidth and memory taken up.
I'm actually kind of like that too. I usually have, if I'm on the computer, I have my book open. If I'm at a table, I have it on my phone or something. Like,
So the search function of the PDF.
To like look through them and like study them and look at the
There's
pictures
nothing
and everything.
First time cracking open a new RP.
I
That
love
sound there, that smell.
like I said, I love the physical copy, but as a GM, I love digital.
Yeah.
and
Search is way, or like if you have a nicely bookmarked PDF.
Which we do. Thanks to Pete. That was
and since we're talking about digital versus physical, when you guys take your notes, do you use pen and paper or do you do them digitally?
Take notes. You're funny.
What are these?
Some of
notes
us
you
have
speak
to,
of?
Char. Some of us are thrown for such.
I should.
I care about notes. I'm gonna die.
I go digital. I used to do hand, but it got to the point where I literally had way too many pieces of paper. I knew exactly where they were, and I'd have to go to. Nah. I don't type it. It's not sticking
That's
around.
Al. He has a million notebooks.
I do. I have like so many notebooks with like little bits and pieces here and there, but I know exactly which notebook, which cover, and which part of the notebook.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that.
Ninja notes. That's what we used to call them back in the day, ninja notes.
How about you,
Yeah.
Pete?
Oh, I don't.
No.
Yeah.
No, let it all run. Because if I forget, the character forgets.
Yep.
It's like, I guess I'm SOL.
So, in the vein of forgetting, pre-written adventures or original content?
The original content becomes a pre-written adventure. To be honest, when I'm rolling with the boomers now, the consultants, guideposts only, because I'm way too excited to see. It will take left turns at something that I'm literally I could not have planned at all. I mean, it always kind of happens. but especially that group. If I do anything more than guideposts, a pre-written adventure to me is, it again, I would probably just kind of circle a few things that I'd have to hit, and that'd be.
So
Yeah.
pre-written adventures for inspiration.
There you go.
Guidepost for blood pressure.
That's truth.
Yeah, one of the things we gave out as a Kickstarter reward was an adventure I wrote called "They Keep to the Borderlands." So we took the original "Keep to the Borderlands" module, birded it up, and made it that in this world, Dungeons and Dragons existed, but people have been taking the old D&D modules and turning them into feathers and playing them. And then we created a plot around that and made it in there. But so I love those kind of things when they're structured, but every once in a while you watch, you go through a playtest of something you planned out and like, oh, I didn't leave those options in there for something. and the poor GM is looking at your material and going, oh, they didn't prepare me and I wasn't prepared. Like, oh man, I'm sorry. I let you down.
Was that only available for the Kickstarters, or would members of our server be able to purchase that?
I don't think purchase because of rights, but answer for that.
Yeah, that was specifically, we have to see. That was one, again, it was just for Kickstarter backers, and it was just a little reward level one. Little. It was
because it sounds awesome, by the
way. We can make it. We're that's something we're looking to make available at least in PDF. As far as reprinting it, we'll see. But that again might even be something, depending on how stretch goals go in the upcoming Kickstarter, where that may even end up being part of a larger adventure book or something like that. So
that'd be awesome.
It's not something we're getting rid of anytime. It was fun, especially for the old heads like me who are just like, we appreciate that.
Most definitely.
And Char.
Yeah.
I already forgot the original question.
Pre-written adventures or original content?
I am really bad at coloring in the line. So, I'll play anything, but don't expect me to go the right way.
We know that.
I mean, is there any other way to do it though?
Exactly. The right way is.
I was at GaryCon last weekend, and I made every single GM go like this.
I can personally attest to that. I've played with Shaw multiple times. I've done that face several times.
Look, I'm the GM. I've had Char in my games. Like I said, yeah. Char doesn't go left. Char doesn't go left or right. Char just goes Char.
Yeah.
But
do you want to know about going full Char? We'll have to. You just have to send it on a game one day.
Northwest and Steve.
And yeah, guys, that was yeah. But yeah, that was the end of our rapid fire questions, and you guys did wonderfully. Yeah,
did we win?
Yes, everybody won. We're gonna be receiving
Brett.
I was just gonna say that, a brand new car. But anyway,
copy of Vert RPG.
But
yeah, name this planet in the name of Mars.
It has been quite a wonderful chat. Like, well, thank you so much for coming on and having this wonderful talk with us.
Thank you. It was super pleasant.
It has been quite wonderful. And so, for our listeners and anyone who might be watching, how can they reach you on the internet, like Twitter, Facebook? What's the best way to get to you guys?
Ravendeskgames.com. Again, we have a Facebook page as well, but just ravendeskgames.com has the blog, again, which is going to get much more active coming soon, but also, you can buy both the games, you can buy other stuff as well. Facebook, we're getting part of what you're going to see more and more in the next, I would say, month or two is a lot more kind of a return to social media, not necessarily a return of finally getting into the social media side and
yeah, don't call it a comeback.
Big truth. But yeah, it's going to get more and more, and those will all be tied in. But for now, yeah, we Ravendesk Games.
You can check out the Twitch too.
Truth.
The Twitch has all of our videos on it. If you're like too lazy to watch our whole actual plays, there's recaps of most of the sessions.
Yeah,
So
done and voiceover by somebody from Manchester.
We don't call possible viewers lazy. They're just a little busy.
Well, I'm lazy, so I assume everybody else is.
And how about if they if our viewers wanted to reach out to you guys or see what you're doing individually? Like, do you guys have your individual Twitters or whatever have you, or Facebooks that you would like people to follow you on, or where you share your ideas or anything like that? Or is the main bit of it on the Ravendesk Games stuff?
I mean, I have Ravendesk Pete, but I'm not really good at the Twitter thing.
I can definitely understand that because I was the same.
I actually tweeted you and Alex today, and neither one of you guys responded.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get back to that. I really am. I'm awful, which is ridiculous. We just wrote a book about the cyberpunk near future and all this technology, and I'm like, I can't be bothered. Yeah, literally. Facebook actually, believe it or not, ends up, I'm definitely sounding like an old head now, right? Is where I'm doing, most of the stuff so far. So I guess on personal, but that'll all tie into Ravendesk Games or Ravendesk Entertainment.
Nice.
Yeah.
We will put the links at the bottom of the page as well. So anybody who wants to see me, I'll be there.
Talk to me is the Cypher Unlimited channel. I'm there all the time.
Bring it full circle. But yeah, thank you so much again for being on, and thank you all for whoever may be watching right now. We will definitely add those links down below for you all to check out, so you can be full on have the latest news on Vert. You definitely don't want to miss out on that. So thank you again for watching, and from us at the CU, we will see you later.
Bye.